So let me give a quick introduction to Solomon Akanga. Solomon Akanga, thank you for first of all joining it. Okay, Solomon is an HR business partner, balance scorecard professional, and advocate of High Court in Kenya, with 19 years of experience in delivering human capital solutions across justice, capital markets, petroleum, and NGO sectors. He specialized in strategy alignment and compliance using the 9-step balance scorecard methodology. So you see here, that's the beauty of the session. So we saw banking experts, we saw legal experts. This is something amazing. So thank you, Solomon, for joining the session today. And please give more introduction from your side and take it up.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Yeah.
It's more difficult for me to further introduce myself after the very great introduction you've given for me. I'll just adopt the introduction and proceed. I also want to thank all the attendees for this summit. It's great to have all people across the globe attending this summit. We are hopeful that in the session we'll be having today, we shall be sharing ideas, we shall be exchanging perspectives, just with a view of cross-pollinating our ideas across all continents. In terms of my presentation, I have a PowerPoint presentation with 8 slides, but I'll not spend a lot on them. I would like us to talk directly to the attendees, as opposed to the PowerPoint. In terms of the structure of my presentation, I'll take 10 minutes just to do a brief introduction on executing strategy with the balance scorecard. Then I'm hopeful to take 30 minutes during my presentation. I'm hopeful that 20 minutes we can be able to do any question or finalize on the presentation. So in terms of introduction, the perspectives which I'll be sharing in this session will by and large be African-based perspectives. So anytime I talk about my experiences, I would like all the attendees to take note of the same having been by and large the African continent-based experiences and not in other jurisdictions. It's important to say that because there are certain issues we'll be sharing, which you might find they don't apply in a jurisdiction. Just to this question, you should be able to be alive to the fact that they are by and large Africa and Kenyan-based experiences. Secondly, on introduction from my end, it is a great opportunity for me to come immediately after the presentation, the mini presentation by Mr. Sheikh, where he has introduced on the free strategy. And also very importantly, just coming after the presentation by my sister, Nazira.
Akanga, just to make sure your file is in the normal mode. Okay, so can you just put into presentation mode and see it? If you are changing slides, you have scanned full screen or a particular. You can see your cursor. You can see your cursor, but in the bottom, you have a presentation mode. You can try with that. In the bottom, come down. Yeah, you can just put in the presentation mode. Yeah, like that. That is that. No, it's moving, but it is in a normal presentation, normal mode, file mode. Okay. So if you put in a presentation mode, you can see the whole screen with that. Yeah, come down. Yeah, in the bottom. In the bottom, you have notes.
Otherwise, right? Press F5. F5. Yeah.
F5.
Yeah.
F5. If you have a shortcuts, yeah. Do that.
I've pressed F5.
I think you can do it. Slide show. What is that? So yeah, come down. In the bottom, you see notes. Akanga. You see in the bottom layer, You can see notes, comments.
Yes.
Okay. In that same row, you go, yeah, you go and click on the last. Yeah, come down a little. Come down. Yeah, exactly. Come down.
Reclaim.
Yeah, no, there is a button, right? Yeah, exactly. Next to it, left to it, left. So you can just click on that. Yeah. Come left.
Step by submitting. It says step by from meeting.
Yeah. Click at it. Maybe you can try that. You can just reshare it once again. Reshare while you're doing the resharing. So select the full screen. I don't mind. You want Deep? You would like to share, just in case to avoid any. Okay, so yeah, please try, no problem. Because if it is under your control, it will be very easy to manage. Yeah, we can see it now.
Is it in the
Normal mode? Yeah.
Normal mode. Video setting. More options. Can I proceed with the way it is showing from your end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see it. Where is the? Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes, click on that. Yes, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So, as I was mentioning, the bulk of the experiences we'll be sharing are by and large from Africa. And I also was mentioning that it is great to come after the presentation by Jake and Nazira. Why? Because these two presentations have made my work extremely easy, because they have given the attendees an introduction to the balance scorecard. And now here I come to share with you the balance scorecard strategy using the balance scorecard. Just as part of my introduction, I have had an opportunity to use a number of solutions, more so the automation solutions. And for the attendees, I'll tell you that the free strategy is at another level in terms of automating your strategy. I'll tell you that as a user, as said by Mr. Sheikh, I've used a number of solutions in the market, in the Kenyan context market, but I'll tell you that a free strategy is at another level. If you are not yet using it, please consider starting to use it ASAP. So now, I can begin my presentation. When I do this presentation, I normally do it for 5 days. I've got to do this presentation in less than an hour. So I'll be very brief. I hope it will just be giving attendees appetizers so that they can engage us and proceed maybe to have the full thing for the presentation and for the solution. So to start off, Scorecard is a strategy execution, a strategy formulation and implementation methodology. So with the balance scorecard, don't worry, when I want to move to the next slide, I will. Just general issues that I'm sharing about the balance scorecard first before I go through the presentation. The balance scorecard is a strategy, formulation, and execution. That's very important for our attendees, understand. Meaning that you formulate your strategy using the balance scorecard, then you proceed and execute it. More often than not, within the direction which we are in, organizations will formulate strategy using the balance scorecard and execute it using a different methodology. Results are always not as good as they would have expected. So an organization use the balance scorecard. As a user, I recommend, and I strongly recommend, that formulate a strategy using the balance scorecard.
Akanga, you are moving slides?
Yes, I'll move the slides.
No, you are in the first page only.
I'll move them. I'm here to start moving them. It's making it.
No, we see only the home page. We see the first slide.
I'll move them.
Yeah, now it is moving.
Okay. So, within the African context and Kenyan context, organizations formulate strategy using balance scorecard and seek to implement them using a different methodology. It's something which we like to discourage. Formulate strategy using balance scorecard and implement it using the balance scorecard. Get the best results. Secondly, there are what we call prerequisites before formulating strategy or implementing balance scorecard in your businesses. And I always recommend to my clients that there are things which they need to put in place prior to impressing or implementing balance scorecard. Critical among them is putting in place what is called an ISO certification, where you have documented your processes. After you have documented your processes, I always recommend to my clients, you can then commence baby steps of implementing the balance scorecard. It is very important for our attendees for me to state that the exception to that rule would be if you implement it with free strategy. With free strategy, you might not need to put in place you might not need to document your processes, probably using ISO 9001, 2021, or something like that. So in terms of the history of the balance scorecard, it goes back to 1990. I know majority of attendees have heard of Kaplan and Norton, or they have interest with Kaplan and Norton. These are regarded as the fathers or the grandfathers of balance scorecard. But I want to share with our attendees, what is it about the balance scorecard and what is it about this model? And I want to go to very basic to enable our attendees have a better insight. Balance scorecard by and large borrows a lot of a production process. And for that, those of us who are in the production industry, when you want to produce bread, you put your inputs, which would be your wheat, mixed with water or whatever ingredients you want to add, then you process it, then you get your results. Basically, that is the summary of what the balance scorecard is. It adopts a manufacturing model. You have your input, you process them, and you get them, as I'll show in our presentation. Now, I know some of us look at this slide and wonder, why do we have a cleaner? And this cleaner is basically cleaning the floor. And for the record of attendees, this cleaner is working at the National Aeronautical Agency in the US, and he was asked a question. He's a cleaner, he was asked, what are you doing? And he said, I'm helping people to the moon. The reason why I'm sharing this particular slide is, this is what I would call the highest level of strategic alignment. This is the highest level of alignment within your organization. And I know a question you can ask your cleaner, randomly walk into your company, you can randomly walk into where you work, and go to the cleaner and ask the cleaner, what are you doing? You are rarely going to find a scenario where a cleaner will tell you, I'm helping my company be the best work agency in India, in China, in Saudi Arabia. So that's an indication of strategic which needs to be addressed. How do you cure that? Again, it is an invitation to you and the organization to consider using the balance scorecard. What about how do I use the balance scorecard? Because it achieves that tool for alignment. It aligns all your processes where you want to go. It aligns, tells a story of your organization. At this stage, I would like to mention to the members that you have to develop your vision, your mission. But I want to put the vision in the context of being a high-level strategy. What is a vision? Where do you want to go in the next 10, 15 years, the long term? So that's what a vision is. Balance scorecard enables you to align your processes to that particular vision. And of course, how you want to go there is the mission. Balance scorecard enables you to go there in that manner. So that's what the balance scorecard does to your organization. It's basically, of course, you must develop your values. You define your strategic results. You define your strategy. You define your objectives. Of course, you have to develop your strategy, which will share what they are as we proceed into this presentation. You also need to develop your strategic objectives, your strategy map. Want members of our attendees to take note of what a strategy map is. It is a conceptual definition of how you create value. And it's very critical for us in the balance scorecard methodology, as I'll show later on in our presentation. So, if you can just remember this slide, and it's the one which summarizes the balance scorecard methodology and how we develop a strategic plan using the balance scorecard. First step in developing a strategy using the balance scorecard is you must have executive sponsorship. You may note that there are instances where you'll try to develop a strategic plan and you don't have the sponsorship of the organization, or you don't have the sponsorship of your business. The balance scorecard is mandatory for you to ensure you have executive sponsorship. Very important. If you don't have the executive sponsorship, I would advise not to consider using the balance scorecard. Some interruption take. Yeah, so you must have executive sponsorship if you want to implement the balance scorecard. Very important. And on executive sponsorship, it answers a critical question, which is at the core of the balance scorecard. And the question is, why do you exist as a business? Do you exist as a business, or do you exist as a non-profit making organization? For the purposes of the balance scorecard, we have two broad categories on how we structure the balance scorecard when we are developing a strategy. And that is balance scorecard for a business and balance scorecard for a non-business. Non-business, we mean a government agency, or we mean an NGO or a charitable institution. So there are two approaches in this are slightly different, although broadly the methodology is the same. So once you have the executive sponsorship, the first thing then you do is you undertake organizational assessment. You know, my previous presenters have talked about the aspect of SWOT analysis. This strategy has a wonderful model on how to do SWOT analysis within the strategy, which again other solutions do not have. When you do your SWOT analysis, you'll be able to place the organization where it is in terms of the environment it operates in. And after you've done that, you'll of course revalidate your mission, your vision, and of course your customer value. Now, in so doing, it enables you to answer again the question of why do you exist? Very important. Those of us who have developed strategy using other methodologies, you may note that until the methodology is similar to the logical framework that we are all familiar with. The variation will come at step 3. Step 3 of our of the balance scorecard module. So after you've done your validation or you have created your mission, vision, and values, you then go to developing high-level business strategies. Now, very important, in my day-to-day usage, I decided to do strategy map after I have done the assessment. I did a strategy map after I've done my assessment. I have a reason why I do that. Because I believe, and it has been very effective for us, when you develop your strategy map, you create value. Is this value which you are going to use flow into your objectives and measures and targets? Is this value you've created which will easily enable you to determine your strategic initiatives, which is at step 6 of your development. So for me, from assessment, I normally directly go to the strategy map. Then I go back to the plate. So I've changed that. Number 5, in terms of the steps, remains unchanged. So here now, we'll now be going and breaking down the individual steps, what happens in each of the steps, because we have stated the actions, established the key case for BSc. Again, it goes back to what I earlier mentioned. Why do you exist? You have executive sponsorship. It's about ensuring you have the ownership of the top management in implementing the balance scorecard. We also wish to state to our attendees that the balance scorecard is an extremely powerful tool, and it is a powerful tool for organizations which are used to the traditional approaches. If you don't have the executive sponsorship, you will fail. I can give that guarantee. So that's step 1, and step 2 to developing overarching strategic results. I also want to inform members or to let members know, as I said, balance scorecard is the easiest methodology to understand how it is done. And if you look at this slide, it's like a house. When you build a house, of course, it's in a foundation. And what is the foundation for the balance scorecard? For us, it's about executive sponsorship. Of course, you'll have your pillars, the ones which you'll put in as pillars, and after that, you put your bricks. You're constructing a brick house. Now, those ones in balance scorecard, we call them the pillars of excellence. You know, my fellow presenter Hanush has mentioned about them, but now these are called our pillars of excellence. These are the ones which hold our strategy. Now, from them being held together, we have now the bricks you put in, which gives you, you start off by putting in your processes, your capacity. And when I talk about capacity, we're talking about issues to do with staffing, issues to do with people, addressing the people issues, addressing training issues, addressing issues which touch on processes touching on innovation. Those are the things you do under capacity building. Sometimes other people, when they are developing their balance scorecard, they call it learning and growth. The names don't matter. You just need to understand the concept. From that capacity which you have built, you will then focus on which processes you need to excel at. We're talking about things to do with turnaround time. You've trained your employees, you've put in place, you have innovated and coming up with the new innovative ideas. Now you go into what processes do you need to come in place to create value. And that's where things to do with turnaround time, how much time do we take to serve our customers and such issues. Now, you can see our presentation is this sign. Basically tells you that whenever you are dealing with a non-profit making organization, you interchange the customer and the finances. Meaning, a non-profit making organization, you have your customer at the top. For profit making organization, you have finance at the top and customer below finance. Again, it goes into why do you exist? For a non-profit making organization, customer is at the top because the endeavor is to satisfy the customer. Profit making organization, the endeavor is to create the share, is to grow the shareholders well. We'll go into that further in my presentation. Then from my house, as you can see, we have your strategic result. Of course, we have enablers, leading, lagging indicators, customer needs, also your vision and mission. So that is basically how we develop as a balanced scorecard strategy. It's like a house, as presented by this slide. Same thing, just further enumeration. Now, this is now even more insightful to our members, our attendees. You can see we have capacity building, which we said is learning and growth. Internal processes, which processes do you need to excel in? If you are non-profit making organization, leads to improved financial growth in your finances, which you use to grow satisfy your customer. Of course, you have your pillars of excellence. I know you can see the pillars here are 4. I always encourage my clients to have 3. I don't know why I always encourage them having 3, because small organizations, ones which yesterday's presenter called them small, with less than 100 employees, don't have a lot of things to focus on. If you have 3 things to focus on as your pillars, which you want to excel in, you will achieve your very purpose of investing. Because these are how the strategic pillars, the pillars of excellence, lead to your results. You can see there, we are asking, what must we excel in to deliver a greater customer value? Again, just defining. I want you guys to take, I want the attendees to take note of this particular slide. This slide, you are saying we have organizational capacity, which we called. You can call it learning and growth. There are others who call it people. It doesn't matter. You just need to understand the concept. You invest in people. Those are now the inputs into the process. You process them, then you get results. What are your results? Finance and customer, depending on your organization. Now, what is the relevance of having the pillars of excellence? We have the enumeration why they are critical to the balanced scorecard. Why they are so key in actualizing the purpose of existence of any organization. Step 3, we have the strategic objective. Remember, I had mentioned I want to go to the strategy map before I go to step 3. So what is a strategy map? I mentioned earlier, how do you create value? And fellow attendees is a storyline. It's an example here. You improve your knowledge and skills through the use of ICT, which will lead to increased customer capacity, increased capacity to respond. And the net effect of that will lower your cycle time and also improve the quality of your service, which again has an intervening component of also reducing your cycle time. The net effect of that, it will lower your costs, lead to a more cost-effective resourcing, and increase your customer satisfaction. Remember, this is a strategy map, a non-profit-making organization. If it was a profit-making organization, you would have finance at the top, customer for it. Why? Once you have lowered the cost, once you have reduced your cycle time, it will generate more customers. Your customers will be more satisfied, they'll come back more, and therefore increase your profitability. For today, I just like you to refer to this as our strategy map, as it is presented, how it creates value. So this is how we create value in the balance scorecard. Those of us who are exposed to this methodology, you will notice that this basically becomes your objectives. You will build objectives around improved knowledge, improved capacity. So that's why in my model, from step 1, I go to step 3. Then I go back to objectives. I find it more reasonable. I find it more appropriate. So now, those objectives which we have seen here, you now go to, from that you develop your objectives as defined here. So what are objectives therefore? The objective is building block for strategy. Remember, if you are developing strategy using the logical framework, once you have done your environmental review, you have done your SWOT, you've done your tested, you directly dive into logical objectives. Now, in the BSc, I am proposing to you, you go into how do you create value, then you go and dive into strategic objectives. So strategic objectives are basically the DNA for strategy. If you don't have objectives, you will not know how to achieve where you want to go. I would normally say that objectives are like the road to your destination. Assuming you want to go to New Delhi, from New Delhi to Mumbai, there are roads leading to Mumbai. There are several roads. One of the roads, those particular roads are the ones which I'm calling your objectives. I've dealt with the issue of strategy mapping. I want to go into even a more enhanced illustration of a strategy map, because fellow attendees, if you understand strategy mapping, then to a great extent you are 70% with the basic. We have an illustration of an organization strategy map here, a generic strategy map. You can see here it's called learning and growth, and processes. Then the names don't worry about the names. You can call it whatever you think will best reflect the situation. You call it learning and growth. Some organizations call it in their balance scorecard people. Sometimes internal processes, others call it processes or success processes. Financial, some call it money, customer. So the model remains the same. As long as you are creating value using the approach I've mentioned, you are still within the realm of the balance scorecard. So this is an example of a generic organizational strategy map. You see, we enhance corporate culture, improve our work ethic so as to enhance employee improvement. You see, this large arrow indicates that this objective drives everything within the perspective of ours. When you do that, you also enhance your investment in ICT. All of them improve the capacity of your employees to deliver on your organization, which will enhance quality systems. There's a missing arrow here. When you enhance your quality systems, you increase your operational efficiency, which enhance your research operations. You may note this is likely to be a research organization. The effect of enhancing your research operations has two effects. It reduces your operational costs, enhances your budget absorption, improves your revenue. When you have improved revenue, you enhance your partnership and you improve your customer satisfaction. Remember, it's still a model for non-profit making. The end result is still the customer. If it was a business, the end result would still be, would have finance interchange with customer. This is just a generic sample of a strategy map. Further, in terms of step 5, you then go into measures and targets. If you have your strategic objectives, you must move into defining how to measure them. On each of the objectives, you can see you have to define the standard of measure. You can see under upgrading your information technology, you can have a measure like average system age. You can have for improved skills, change in skill level, like that. Step 6, you then go into, you have defined the road you want to use from you define the road you want to use from Delhi, India, New Delhi, Mumbai. How then do you get there? What speed? Now, that's now where it comes into the issue of strategic initiatives. Now, you may note that there are organizations which would have a system for project management. So those particular objectives go into a project management cycle. So the way you manage your projects, it then flows into your project management cycle. If you are using you have a project management approach which you have implemented in your organization, and 360 model, this goes into your project management cycle. So you manage that as any project you have in the organization. And there are various approaches to project management, which I know various organizations have. So you may note that good strategic initiatives are objectives. So of course, our strategic initiative, you come from your strategic initiative, you develop your strategic objectives, you develop your initiative. What are they supposed to have? You define the scope, you define the schedule, you define the deliverable, you identify a risk management framework, you define the progress, and of course, you put in place an accountability framework. Who is going to be accountable for ensuring this is done within your organization? So turn your initiatives into projects. Turn your initiatives into projects. What we have said, define the scope, define the owner, define the schedule, of course, budget for it, anticipate deliverables, put in place a risk management framework, put in place a project communication module. And of course, you have to monitor progress, enhance, and ensure focus. The issue of monitoring project is where now the Office of Strategy Management that my colleague Shaikh mentioned earlier comes in. And of course, you celebrate success. At step 7 and 8, you're gonna be translating your high-level strategy into aligned lower-level objectives. Now, 7 and 8, we do something called cascading. Remember, we had developed our objectives here. These are organization-wide objectives. Now, we need to have ownership of these objectives by the different business units within the organization. How do you do that? Scorecard methodology has put in place a mechanism we call, cascading. What is cascading? Cascading is where you are able to translate your high-level strategy to a level objectives. and you align. By doing that, you enable alignment between organization-wide objectives and the objectives to be executed by a department or various business units. So from this, you'll be able to develop a departmental scorecard. So you have an overall scorecard for your organization, let's say organization XYZ. Then this organization XYZ has 3 departments. Let's say business, operations, and HR. You have business scorecard, you have human resource scorecard, and you have operation scorecard, all stepped down from the organization scorecard. From there, from the departmental scorecard, you then develop individual scorecard. Again, you are aligning what individuals in the business do or in the organization do with what the department wants to achieve and which flows into the overall organization scorecard. That is what the balanced scorecard achieves in alignment. The first strategy has a wonderful, I think it was briefly shown by Jake, how it is done in the strategy. So, what is cascading? I've mentioned about this. It involves translating corporate level strategy into directorate, department, or support unit, meaning you have your corporate strategy, you call it first tier, you translate it to departmental objectives and measures, and of course define the operational details. So this is what cascading is. So if you look at this slide, you can see you have your corporate scorecard, which we have developed. So the question we answer with the corporate scorecard is, how will we achieve our vision? If we achieve our corporate scorecard, we achieve our vision. Department. How does this business unit, and department can be a business unit, it can be if you are having a geographical setup, you have a unit in Tokyo, Japan, you have a unit in Nairobi, Kenya, you have a unit in South Africa. All those can become business units, which you then cascade the corporate scorecard to those units. So the question we ask at the departmental level or the second tier. So corporate scorecard is tier 1, departmental scorecard is tier 2. Is how does my business unit help the corporate achieve its vision? And you of course cascade the departmental scorecard, individual scorecard. Individual scorecard is linked to the roles. I normally tell my clients that a balanced scorecard is an accountability system. At the level of alignment from the top to what an individual does. Organizations which have achieved this perfect alignment are similar to the picture I shared. Remember my picture here? These are organizations which will have a cleaner being asked, what are you doing? Working for National Aeronautical Space Agency, and the cleaner says, I'm helping people to go to the moon. How do we achieve that? Balanced scorecard enables you to achieve that based on what we have shown here. So there are questions which I want to leave the floor, which is, do you have a strategic plan? Does the organization have a strategic plan? Strategic plan generally will be multiple years. In Africa and in Kenya in particular, you'll have 5 years. The general trend is to have 5-year strategic plan. As you have it, you may note that the bulk of organizations in Kenya and in Africa in the 2025 year, all of them have strategic plans. I know 10 years ago, you'll find 80% of organizations will not be having a strategic plan. So the other question which you need to ponder about is, have you cascaded that strategic plan to departments, business units, if you have operations in other countries? And the other question which I like us to ask ourselves and think about is, what is the link between your organization's strategic plan, your departmental strategic plan, and your annual appraisal. Annual appraisal is annual performance targets. Annual in first strategy, you have balance scorecard, which is an individual balance scorecard cascaded to the individual. Are they linked? To what extent are they linked? Now, ponder and reflect on those questions. The answer lies in adopting the balance scorecard as your strategy formulation and execution methodology. And as I mentioned in the first part of my presentation, you don't need to go far. We have the strategy. It will help you achieve this formulation of your strategy and implementation of your strategy. At this stage, I would like to invite questions from the floor. Anyone with a question? As you think about the questions you need to ask us regarding this, one of the questions which will always come up is, you have a balance scorecard in a banking industry that will be different from the balance scorecard in a manufacturing industry or an IT industry. If you understand the methodology, balance scorecard is one. What changes are how you create value, how you define the creation of value. How do you create value? You improve your capacity, you innovate, improve your processes. After that, it will lead to an increase in the number of customers. You'll have repeat customers. When you have repeat customers, you will be able to have more money or more profit derived from each of your customers. Model can be applied in the industry. You can apply it in a school, you can apply it in an NGO, you can apply it in a government agency, you can apply it anywhere. We normally have questions in Kenya where in the public sector, because the government sector ask, we always tell you before you train them that balance scorecard is not applicable in government. It is 100% applicable. Other jurisdictions which government agencies have, as I said, government is regarded in the same cohort with an NGO, a charity. It exists to render a service. The overriding objective why a government agency exists. But my experience with why there is normally some degree of resistance to balance scorecard in government agencies has been a lot to do with what the balance scorecard can do to the organization. Balance scorecard is an accountability system. And generally in Africa or in the jurisdictions, some jurisdictions, public bodies do not like accountability. Yet the citizenry are in demand of that accountability. So there is that mismatch. Not because the balance scorecard cannot be implemented, it cannot be effective. It is an accountability system. It holds every person in an aligned way accountable for what they do. Organization or in a public office they hold. So that's the end of my presentation. The floor is open. If you have a question, just unmute and ask. Question you have, or a clarification or an improvement. And then also one other thing which always comes up is how do you secure your data if you formulate and execute your strategy using the balance scorecard? In Africa and in some of the jurisdictions we are in, is always insistence that data has to be saved locally. Because there are issues to do with if I have my data in the cloud, what will happen? We have had a scenario where we've developed an automation solution, some of our clients, and some of the issues which normally come up later are where do we have the data stored? Me, those are not issues touching on the substratum of the balance scorecard. They are issues of how to implement, which can be managed. So the floor is open.
Yeah. So how is that? So you in the legal, did you do any implementation in the legal context? So because you have experience and you are also a practicing barrister in the High Court. So how does that balance scorecard? How do you select balance scorecard? Is something which it's very interesting to understand the background, Solomon.
Thank you, Shai.
Yeah.
The biggest lesson or practice of law is probably the justice system at courts in Kenya. Of course, we have the persons who are in the justice chain. We have the police, of course, we have the prisons department and all that. Prison department. So basically, the courts are part of what we call non-profit making. As we said, we have the bigger cohort which is made up of profit making and non-profit making. So the balance scorecard applies to them. We developed, I was part of the team that developed a solution for automating the balance scorecard at the judiciary. That is several years ago. And it's currently being used, it's still being used on a pilot basis because there are issues to do with the process maturity. At the time when we were developing, at the beginning I had mentioned that you need to have your documentation process documented. So they had issues with documentation, which they are working on. They have been working on, I think, for the last 2-3 years. So they are still refining that. They'll be able to apply the solution we gave across this, across almost 260 in the Republic of Kenya. So it is applicable 100%, gets value, enhances all attainment, whether in government, justice sector, business, any sector you are in, the balance scorecard will.
So you see now in Africa in general and also in Kenya in particular. So how does that the strategy management practices is taking place? Okay, so are they doing any formal strategy process, whether it is a balance scorecard or any other framework, or how does that? What is the readiness of the industries? Can you give some examples? So,
vast majority is this commencement of adoption of balance scorecard. I think we are still at the take-off stage of adoption. But challenge you'll have, if you go to any site on any public institution in Kenya, you'll find they have a strategic plan. You'll find they have developed a strategic plan using the balance scorecard. But they want to implement it using a different methodology. So that is where they face headwinds. So that is where they face the challenge. So they want to formulate strategy using the strategy using the balance scorecard and implement it using. We have something called that tool that is used now is a tool. Is and large based on the logical framework. So you find there is a disconnect between the strategy they have developed and what they are using to implement. What they need to do is to implement, formulate, and implement using BSC. That's the challenge we have, but I think there are big steps which we are making towards that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So let me check once again if there is any questions. So can you give like in your experience, we talk about the balance scorecard. I think you also give some trainings in the region. So can you talk about the people part of it? Because how you can align the people performance to the strategy using the balance scorecard framework in your particular region. So how does it take up? Yeah.
Of course, the balance scorecard methodology, it's cascaded to the various enterprise levels, cascaded, let's say, department, then from cascading to department to cascading to people. Now, when you cascade it to people, there are issues to do with, you can have individual targets, or you can have team targets, which is direction which the 21st century is going into. In terms of our context in Kenya, as I mentioned, we'll develop it using the BSC, but when it comes to monitoring, they track it using a different system. So you'll find at the end of the strategy period, maybe after 4 years or 5 years, they report a consultant to confirm whether you are on track to attainment of the strategy. So they try to tie the performance of the people, which sometimes there is normally a mismatch. As I said, 15 years ago, we didn't even have strategic plans in public bodies in Kenya. Today, 99% have strategic plans. That's a good step. I'm sure in the next 5-6 years, or if we can, strategy can assess them, we should be able to have the formulation using the strategic, the balance scorecard, cascade to the various enterprise units and cascade to the individuals. Balance scorecard has that capability and it has worked. It works in various private enterprises in Kenya.
Yeah. So yeah. So see how does that culture in the performance management culture plays a role? Okay. So how does that culture plays a role in particular? You know, it's not easy. So if you want to introduce any new management system or so, it's not easy, first of all. And also, when you want to do any strategy transformations, so how does that take place in Africa in general? Yeah. The culture.
Yes, actually, when we implement my clients, the balance scorecard, we normally have a change management module, which addresses cultural issues for adoption of the balance scorecard. And for the purposes of Kenya and in Africa generally, the change management module must be quite robust, and it must run the entire stream of strategic period. And it must be done for like 3 or 4 strategy cycles to have a final acceptance or a final alignment of SC, the culture, people culture, the organizational culture. So you must have in place a change management module, which must be robust.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what do you advise for companies in Africa? So, when they want to embrace a strategy, a transformation using balance scorecard, so what are the key things you recommend to them? So, how to start the program? what is it it takes you to convince to your leadership team, and then how to establish. So what is your experience and also your recommendation to the organizations in Africa?
We have a number of, Sheikh, we have a number of public bodies and even private bodies which will lose out on automation. The moment an organization is implementing PSC in Africa and you lose out on automation, you will not see the benefit. So meaning, when we are marketing an adoption of balanced scorecard, you must also market the automation. They must run concurrently. Why? It will even support the change management, because is what I call imaginary fear, the balance scorecard in government agencies, but simply because people have the public bodies are yet to see the benefit. The only way to achieve that is putting in place a monitoring and tracking system, which is the automation component. You have the two implemented with it by any public body, it will have a higher acceptability within the African context. Automation.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's a fantastic session. If you would like to give any insights on the industry readiness, or especially as far as the strategy is concerned. So you have like 5 minutes. You can just explain, because it's an unknown area for the rest of the world. So you can just brief how the transformation is taking up in whatever way, whether it could be a industrial transformation or it could be technology. Okay, so you take your time to give us some kind of brief, Akanga.
Well, as I said in my presentation, the aspect of adoption of the balanced scorecard within the broader African context and the broader public context, because I want to separate the adoption of balanced scorecard by private entities and public entities in Africa. Private entities, there's normally a lot of, I call it cross-pollination from other jurisdictions. And generally, you'll have a scenario whereby private entities, the adoption is much easier or much accepted across the board in Africa compared to public bodies. Public bodies have unique issues. Probably it's because I think it's the degree of maturity of these public bodies. Vast majority of African countries have been independent for something like 60 years, between 60 and 30 years. And the public bodies have been in existence for that duration of time. And also the aspect of maturity or ability of the various African countries, African public bodies, due to the normal issues associated with stability, which we all know. So if the issues of stability are addressed and being alive to the fact that you have countries which are 60 and 30 years and which are to some degree unstable, sustained engagement will be critical. Sustained engagement, I mean, these public bodies must constantly be engaged in terms of the top leadership, adopt the balanced scorecard, use it as a tool for strategy formulation and execution. I know there will be small steps, there will be steps which might appear. It should not be taken as a lost cause per se. That's what I mean. Engagement with Africa on the issue of balanced scorecard must be sustained. Persons seeking to have this as the approach must constantly engage the African continent, enable them to make these critical baby steps. As I said, you'll find you have a public body which is yet to document their processes. If they have not adopted the free strategy and they are using a different balanced scorecard software, let's say Store, does not have the aspect of enabling them make those big steps. Other solutions are always for a mature balanced scorecard system, and they don't have an opportunity for growing or growing of the processes with them, taking steps, and of course reaching maturity. So to me, critical would be sustained engagement and not giving up on specifically public bodies, because balanced scorecard is a powerful tool which will create value, it will create wealth, both at national, institutional, business level. So to me, the critical issue would be sustained engagement. Yeah.
Yeah. So any more questions? Yeah, so we don't have more questions, Akanga. So with that, I take an opportunity to thank you for a wonderful session. I still like to see your legal concept. So can you give one or two KPIs from the legal perspective? How can we measure legalities in any balance scorecard? Because I did not come across with any KPI for that. Okay, so what is that? One or two KPIs to include in your standard balance scorecard?
Well,
from the legal point of view.
Well, a number of KPIs you can develop for the legal space, and to a great extent, Shaikh, they don't deviate from. It's about issue of turnaround time for a case. It used to be with repeat planned brief, where a client brings a brief and they come back again. How many times you are looking at? How many times in a given duration of time? How many of your clients who give you instructions to handle their matters give you multiple instructions? So the principles in terms of KPI within the legal space are similar to those which are applicable in any other industry. And I know sometimes we think that it will be different, but it is not. Because law is by and large, it's operating within a business, yes, or operating within a non-governmental or charitable, yes, or government, yes. And the principles are the same.
Fantastic. So thank you, Solomon. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. So appreciate your lecture, and so on behalf of participants and organizers, I thank you very much, and wish you good luck in your new engagements in balance scorecard, whatever, and then look forward for more sessions. Okay, so thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm glad to have been given this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.